It looks like Lincoln Riley has taken some of Georgia's best peaches.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free, and I really do appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, you want to become a free subscriber, super easy. Hit that red subscribe button. It's done. Hit that thumbs up. Both mean a whole heck of a lot to the show. And because you don't want to miss one of the episodes that comes at you Monday through Friday, hit that bell notification button and you will never miss an episode. This episode of Locked On USC is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. And when you enter your promo code LockedOnCollege, they're going to throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler. Check that out. Pretty cool. So, on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, I hinted that there was going to be a commitment coming soon. And it was going to be from a recruit who wasn't on the last official visit weekend. Last weekend's official visit had two visitors. It's what I like to call when Kingston Viliamu-Asa and Peyton Woodyard, had their come to Troy Polamalu moment weekend. So now it looks like Lincoln Riley wants to spread that word deeper into Georgia. So not only is Lincoln Riley recruiting the tight end position like there's no more tight ends available. I mean, he wants every last one of them. But the state of Georgia, he's hitting that state right now like there's a supply chain issue. He's going to make sure he corners the market. Well, if I'm the Georgia Bulldogs head coach, Kirby Smart, I'm probably starting to take this thing a little bit personal. Why? Well, during the 2023 recruiting cycle, Lincoln Riley, he took away Walker Lyons. That was one of Georgia's top tight end targets. Then he did a walk-off trot, Lincoln Riley. You might remember at the end of the 2023 signing cycle in April. I believe it was in April. Maybe it was in May. Lincoln Riley pulled Deuce Robinson. That was another tight end prospect that Kirby Smart in Georgia wanted pretty bad. So now in the 2024 recruiting class, Riley said, I think he's saying this, let's see if I can go pluck a tight end out of Kirby's backyard. Well, he did. Top 100 player, Walter Matthews. He chose USC over Florida and Georgia. 6'6", 250-pound freak, athlete. This guy moves incredibly well. If you can, hit the internet, look him up, check out his huddle highlights. Dude is really fluid. There's no stiffness to him whatsoever. And that probably comes from playing basketball. So Walter Matthews, he becomes USC's 10th commitment in the class for 2024. He's the second tight end. He's joining four-star Joey Olson. He's from the state of Oregon. But with Walter Matthews' commitment out of the state of Georgia, tight end, who the Georgia Bulldogs have shown, they know how to use the tight end very well. You might know the name Ross Bowers, Darnell Washington. Well, it doesn't seem to make a difference. Lincoln Riley and USC is getting who they want at that position, including players that Georgia wants. So Walter Matthews was part of that group of 12 who visited 2 weeks ago, that June 2nd weekend. And with his commitment, he's the 7th. That would make 58. That's 58% hit ratio so far. That's amazing in the recruiting world. I mean, in baseball, if you hit 300, If you get 3 hits out of every 10 at bats, that's considered good, really good. 58% in recruiting out of one class of 12, yeah, you're like in Babe Ruth territory. Or, who knows, maybe the next Deuce Robinson territory. Don't forget, USC has their June bash this weekend coming up, the weekend of the 16th. And there's going to be a lot of elite guys in USC's recruiting crosshairs. And again, let me reemphasize. Walter Matthews is now the second player in this class from the state of Georgia. Let me just remind everybody, last week, defensive end, rush end, Kameryn Fountain, he chose to come to the West Coast. And like I said, USC, they might not even be done recruiting the state of Georgia right now. This is what I'm talking about. USC's going out there and plucking the peaches off the tree, right in Kirby's backyard. Here's the reason why Walter Matthews chose USC. He said he's a big fan of Riley and his ability to call offensive plays and put players in the right positions. Quote, his play style he uses with his players, and his background and his ability to produce with tight ends is what stood out. A big one I pay attention to is with Mark Andrews back at Oklahoma, and how he was able to make him the player he is now. Also with Coach Riley, you're going to have top quarterbacks no matter where you're at in school. So he has complete confidence, despite the fact that Lincoln Riley hasn't found a quarterback for the 2024 class. Walter Matthews knows that Malachi Nelson's there, Miller Moss is there. He'll be just fine when it comes to quarterback play. And Walter Matthews is also back in Los Angeles this weekend for the Elite 11 / opening that used to be up there in Beaverton, Oregon. Now it's just Elite 11 opening. So that'll be in Redondo Beach, and I'll be hanging out there this week as well. On-3's evaluation of Walter Matthews from Charles Powers. He's a large-bodied offensive mismatch whose athleticism for his size allows him to separate from defenders with ease. Tremendous build and frame, strong hands at the catch point, bouncy on the hardwood, and shows explosiveness and body control. Need to see some development in his route running and hip fluidity, but has immense potential and upside. I disagree on that hip fluidity. When you're 6'6", 250, you're not supposed to move like a cornerback. He moves just fine for someone his size. And you can see that when he's on the basketball court as well as when he's running routes. He does have room to improve. We all do. Every freshman does. But I disagree with the fluidity part of it. Here's a reminder what USC's tight end room is going to look like over these next few years. Don't forget they moved Carson Tabaracci over. He transferred from Utah as a running back, linebacker. He's now a tight end. 6'2", 230 pounds. Cade Eldridge, part of this year's 2023 class. 6'5", 240, more of an H-back. I mentioned Walker Lyons. He'll be here in 2024 when he completes his mission. 6'4", 230. Pardon me. And now you got Walter Matthews. 6'7", 250 pounds. And I mentioned Joey Olson, 6'5", 220 pounds. That's a big room. Don't forget, I'm not forgetting Deuce Robinson. He was listed as a tight end during his recruitment, but he's different. He's 6'6", 225 pounds. I'm going to call him the flex. I think that's the new position anyways, the flex. This is what Riley said. I certainly just don't see him as a tight end. He said that, I don't know, earlier, back in April, I believe. Here's what we know about Deuce. He's a great athlete, excels both in football and baseball. But we just now also found out when he got to USC that he's really, really fast. I mean, really fast. And the comparisons that USC pointed out, they have to be scaring the bejesus out of future defensive coordinators on USC's schedule. USC Athletics Twitter tweeted out a video that showed Deuce running in some timed drills. He clocked out at 21.06 miles per hour. Here are some of the NFL guys that USC was comparing that to. Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf. He runs 21.66 miles per hour. Pretty big dude. How about a smaller guy like Jamar Chase, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals? All he does is run 21.74. And I'm sure you've heard of Miami's wide receiver, played for Kansas City, Tyreek Hill. 21.91. He's considered like the fastest guy in the NFL. So when you've got someone who's 6'6", 225, 230 pounds, freshman in college, running 21 miles an hour, yeah, USC's got a weapon. This is what Riley said back in April. He's a unique skill set that we obviously are fired up to add to a good group right now. I would imagine he's a guy we'll have the opportunity to move around and do some unique things with. Because from a matchup standpoint, you can go out recruiting 4 or 5 years and you won't see that type of combination. He's a very unique combination of the skill set that he has. So I just wanted to kind of tie up the tight end room there because we were talking about Walter Matthews. But let me close out this segment with about Lincoln Riley going into Georgia and taking the best peaches out of the state. So far, again, Kameryn Fountain, Walter Matthews. They're still on the board. 5-star wide receiver, Mike Matthews. He's from Georgia. It's a long shot, but hey, what if Lincoln Riley and Sean Nua can pull that 5-star defensive lineman, Edric Houston? He's from Buford, Georgia. That's not going to happen right away. He said he's committing on his birthday. That's in August. But here's what Edric has said. He's hearing from USC more than anybody right now. And that includes Clemson, Georgia, anyone else. So stay tuned. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But if Lincoln Riley can go pull 1 or 2 more guys out of the state, right under Kirby Smart's nose, out of his backyard, yeah, that would be amazing. And I don't think that's something that Kirby wants to deal with. I know something you want to deal with, and it's something you should be wearing. Bird Dogs shorts and pants, because number one, they're going to make you look really good. I showed you mine. I was wearing them yesterday. Bird Dogs, they're these stretch khaki shorts. They also have pants, and they're designed to fit you slimmer. So if you got those thick thighs, the athlete thighs, soccer thighs, kicker thighs, they're going to keep you with that sculptured look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as maybe the well-known name Lululemon. Well, Bird Dogs has taken over the market. So if you were looking for another reason not to buy Lululemon product, Bird Dogs is going to give you a great reason. Number one, they look great. Number two, they feel great, and they fit way better. Plus, they use this anti-stink, anti-sweat wicking fabric that's going to keep you cool and dry all day, especially going into the summer months. And I mentioned they're super comfy to wear. Guys, below the belt, you kind of want to feel like there's nothing going on down there other than what should be going on down there. That's what this fabric is all about. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code LockedOnCollege for your free Yeti-style tumbler. I told you about that at the beginning of the show. So again, for a free Yeti-style tumbler, head on over to birddogs.com, enter LockedOnCollege. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. So just because Lincoln Riley and, in this case, Alex Grinch recruited you to come to Oklahoma and you chose to follow them to USC, there are no guarantees that you're going to get anything given to you whatsoever. You still have to compete. One of the things the transfer portal does is it tests which players want to compete. it's just, it's not the only gauge, but I think everyone would agree. It gives players an easy out if they feel that, playing time could be an issue. So, sometimes players just need a new outlook. The transfer portal provides players that opportunity. So this is what happens when USC brings in players like a Traquan Figgins from Alabama. Latrell McCutchin played nickel safety, the nickelback spot at USC. And that position got crowded when Traquan Figgins transferred over earlier this spring. It's less crowded now because Latrell McCutchin is transferring again. Now you understand why I said Alex Grinch. Look, I'm not saying that Latrell doesn't want to compete. However, in 2022, when he came over to USC, he started 2 games. He played in all 14 games. He had 22 tackles. He had 1 sack. He had a couple of impact plays. He had a forced fumble in the Pac-12 championship game. And he also recovered a fumble against UCLA. And according to PFF, he was on the field for 354 defensive snaps. So he saw the field. As I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, USC got another transfer this spring. He plays the same position, Traquan Figgins. Pardon me. So this is kind of a 2-for-1 deal as well, down the line. Because not only is Traquan going to be playing for USC this season, his younger brother, Anquan, is already committed to USC, and he's going to be a part of the 2025 class. So not only does Traquan come in this season, but that nickel spot, like I mentioned, it's a little crowded. You've got Jalen Smith, who's returning. He started 9 times last year. Injury got in the way towards the end of the season. Max Williams. You've got the redshirt freshman, Fabian Ross. So, look, you hate to see the guy leave. Latrell is the 19th Trojan to jump in to the transfer portal in 2023. We know what happened in Lincoln Riley's first year. So, of those 19 guys, I don't know where Latrell is going to end up, but I do know that USC is going to see some of those 19, including Gary Bryant Jr. at Oregon, Raylan Goforth at Washington, recently Jason Rodriguez and John Jackson III chose Nevada. You're going to see them in game 2. And then you got Britton Bam Allen, safety, going to be at Utah this year. So if you want to get another positive out of this when a player leaves, it opens up another spot on the roster. I'm not sure. In fact, I'm not even sure the exact numbers. USC could have maybe 2 spots open because there's still names in the transfer portal who haven't found new homes yet. So again, maybe 2. I know that with Latrell, that at least gives you 1. So I guess that's a positive when a player leaves and goes into the transfer portal. Again, you don't want to see it happen. You wish him well, but this is his second time, and now he's going to need a waiver from the NCAA if he wants to play this year. So he has to be at least accepting the fact that he's going to be sitting out this season. That's tough because he went all the way through spring camp with USC this year. So what position should Lincoln Riley use that open roster spot on? Is it going to be, I don't know, maybe it works out well as far as having years of eligibility remaining. Maybe the JUCO defensive back that's coming for this weekend's visit, Sione Laulele. I'm going to get that name right one of these times. Someone send it to me phonetically so I can pronounce it correctly. I hate butchering people's names, so I do apologize up front. If it's not a high school recruit, who in the transfer portal fits USC's unique needs. Remember, they have some holes to. The holes aren't as big as they were last year, but there's still some holes that they can fill for depth. But here's the thing: you just don't want to pull a player out of the portal and throw him on the field. They got to be able to pass that culture vetting process that Lincoln Riley and the team has. So, throw some names at me. Who's out there? If you were to get a guy out of the transfer portal, what position should Riley use it on? I think the right answer is someone who plays in the trenches on either side of the ball. Offensive line, defensive line, doesn't matter to me. That's where I would look first. I don't know. What do you think? You know where to reach me. Send me some feedback on the YouTube channel. You can always find me over there on wearesc.com. And right now is a perfect opportunity to take advantage of our subscription special, $1. Yeah. Or jump in for a full year, $49.99. That's half off. I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed with all the recruiting information that's coming at you right now. I only have 30 minutes to do it every show, 30 minutes or less. So what I can't give you here, you're going to get big-time VIP nuggets over there. But all of you everydayers, I got something coming up for you here soon. Something that's going to want to make you a subscriber, a different type of subscriber. Stay tuned for that. More coming up on that later. But on this episode, we're gonna jump in, as you can see on today's show. So who's next? Who is going to be USC's next commitment? This whole week has really been about recruiting. Gonna stay on that tangent. Who's going to be the next commit to Lincoln Riley and USC? I'll say it again. This weekend is the big June Bash. It starts in a couple days, depending on when you're watching this episode of Locked on USC. This episode was published on Thursday, June 15th. I guess that's the start of the weekend. A couple guys will be showing up then. I know there's going to be at least 15 plus official visitors that are anticipated at USC this weekend. That officially starts the 16th through the 18th. Now, the Trojans are considered the favorites for several of the guys who are anticipated to show up. Translated, what does that mean? Announcements are forthcoming. But will the next commitment, will it be a defensive guy? Will it be an offensive guy? One smart move, I guess, would put money on, if you want to throw a name out there, Marcellus Williams. The St. John Bosco defensive back. He just got back last weekend from his trip to Oklahoma. So this is his official visit to USC. He's also visited Miami. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I feel really good about Max's younger brother choosing USC. And when he does finally pull the ripcord, and should he choose USC, that would be a significant help. And I cannot emphasize that enough. A significant help. And it would make another impact on Kingston Viliamu-Asa's as well as Peyton Woodyard's decisions. Just saying. Now, if it's an offensive player, one could say, well, Mark, it's going to be a wide receiver, right? Could be. I mean, if I'm a wide receiver and I'm being recruited by USC, I sure as hell ain't playing that wait and see game. We saw what happened to the offensive line. If you go back to a previous episode of Locked On USC this week, I mentioned that the offensive line room, at least at the interior offensive line position, that group appears to be filled, according to sources. And that means USC might not be getting anybody from Mater Dei this year. So, narrow it down on the offensive line. Who was USC looking at from Mater Dei? So, again, USC's wide receiver room is stacked. And they're looking to add another, maybe two. Mike Matthews, 5-star, out of the state of Georgia. He's listed as an athlete. We'll see. It's a long shot. Ryan Pelham, Milliken, speedster. He's visiting this weekend. We know about Draylon Miller, the wide receiver out of Texas. He's visiting this weekend. That wasn't a dramatic pause. I'm just kind of catching my breath. What about the offensive line? So I mentioned that the interior spots could be filled for the 2024 class. Manasi Itite and Hayden Trader. They committed. They're already in. So let me throw out this name. What about Makai Sena, the offensive lineman from Texas? Or Justin Tauanu from Huntington Beach? They're in town for their official visits this weekend. Is there a wild card out there? Look, I'm going to give you something. If you haven't heard by now, Nate Palmer, running back, he canceled his official visit to USC this weekend. It appears that he's bound for TCU. So, how close is Taylor Tatum, the number one running back recruit in the country? How close is he to pulling the trigger? There's got to be a reason why Palmer canceled that trip to USC. Did he hear something? Told you there's been a lot of smoke. Here's what all of you USC recruiting fans need to know. USC is going to be having a huge recruiting weekend. And if they get another 58% hit ratio out of this weekend's group, all I'm going to say is, yeah, baby. That's big time. USC is this close to having a top 10 class right now. I think they're at number 12 with Walter Matthews' commitment. I told you they're going to jump into the top 10 before the end of the month. That's a given. Depending on which players they hit by the end of this recruiting weekend, by the end of June, they're going to be tickling that top 5. And they're doing that by going into the state of Georgia, taking some of the best players. USC's reach isn't just locally, nationally. You need to go take players out of the top programs' backyards. USC's showing the ability to do that. And that's how you know. You hate to say they're back because they haven't won anything yet. They haven't even won the Pac-12 championship yet with Lincoln Riley. However, things are starting to line up. The championships could be starting to line up, starting with the Pac-12. That happens with lining your roster with great players. And they're just not in California. They're just not in Texas. Got to go into Georgia, get them. Florida, Connecticut. Wherever they are, you go get them. That's one of the benefits that USC is taking advantage of by moving to the Big Ten Conference in 2024. Players recognize, USC is playing some big-time football. These recruits want to play big-time football. What better place to do it than in LA for USC? That's going to do it for this episode. I'll be back with another one. I'll have some more updates recruiting because it seems like they're coming really fast and furious. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.